Okay, let's dive in. Imagine this. You're 20. You've spent your life as a scholar, right?
Yeah.
Deep in books, quiet study. That's your world.
The academic life.
Exactly. But then your mother, and she's this, like, incredibly brutal, famous general. She just drops this bomb.
Yeah.
You're not going to the archives. You're being forced into a deadly war college.
Quite the career change.
Seriously. And your first day, forget easing in. You have to cross this crumbling, ancient parapet. It's 1,000 feet up. Winds are howling. Cadets are literally falling off, plummeting to the deaths around you.
Oh, wow. Intense.
It's immediate, visceral terror. Survive that, and maybe, just maybe, you get to bond with a dragon. If you fail, well, you die. That's your page 1 introduction to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros.
Okay, wow. Now let's do a complete 180. Picture a totally different world. This one's constantly on the edge of, well, ecological disaster. Catastrophic climate change isn't a future threat. It's a regular thing. They call them fifth seasons.
Fifth seasons. Grim name.
It fits. And in this world, you are an origin. You have this immense power. You can literally control the earth, manipulate energy, quash earthquakes, right?
It's like a superhero origin story.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But no. This power makes you feared, hated, actually. You're completely dehumanized by the society you live in.
So power is a curse, not a gift.
Exactly. And your story, your specific journey, begins with just unimaginable personal loss. Your husband has murdered your child and run off with your daughter specifically because of these abilities you all share.
Oh my God, that's devastating.
It is. So you're not just fighting a hostile planet, you're up against this deep systemic oppression, this ingrained hatred, and you're desperately trying to find a future where just surviving isn't the same as actually, living. That's the gut punch opening of N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season.
What a contrast. I mean, just fundamentally different ways to enter a fantasy world.
Right. Completely. Both are fantasy, no question. Both have had a huge impact. But they represent such different approaches to the genre, and they found their massive success through totally different routes.
And that's really what we want to unpack today, isn't it? That's
Yes.
the mission for this deep dive, to look at these two titans, really,
Yeah.
of modern fantasy and figure out what their very different journeys tell us about the genre itself.
Precisely. We're comparing and contrasting Rebecca Yarros' Fourth Wing and N.K. Jemisin's The Fifth Season. You've got Fourth Wing on one side. It's the undeniable commercial juggernaut.
Juggernaut is the word. Bestseller lists, sure, but it just took over social media.
It defined a whole subgenre, really. Its success felt very decentralized, like this wave of emotional virality that just spread organically through reader communities, especially online.
And then the other side of the coin, the fifth season. This is the critical masterpiece. It didn't just get good reviews. People talk about it redefining the genre.
Yeah, the awards alone are staggering. Unprecedented, actually. It got celebrated by experts, critics, academics. Its validation came through more established channels, centralized institutional recognition.
So that's the core question we're wrestling with. What do these two books, and their totally different paths to, let's call it dominance, tell us about what fantasy can be today?
What are readers actually looking for? Is it changing? And how is the whole landscape of literature, especially speculative fiction, evolving right in front of us?
And let's be super clear up front. This isn't about saying one is better. That's not the goal.
No, absolutely not. It's about understanding what each book offers. What kind of reader needs do they meet? And what does their success, different as it is, signal for fantasy as a whole?
Okay, let's really get into Fourth Wing. Because Phenomenon barely covers it, right? This thing just exploded. It wasn't just a book release. It became a cultural moment.
It really did. People called it a viral publishing sensation. And that wasn't hyperbole. The scale was, frankly, mind-boggling. You mentioned social media.
The TikTok numbers are just insane. Rebecca Yarros' name, hashtagged, over 2 billion views. Not million, billion.
2 billion. Let that sink in. That kind of organic, reader-driven explosion. You just don't see that every day. It bypassed a lot of the traditional marketing routes.
And it wasn't just online buzz. It translated into real-world reach. It was one of the most borrowed books in U.S. public libraries in both 2023 and 2024.
That's a huge indicator, isn't it? It means it wasn't just people buying it on impulse. It had broad, sustained appeal across different access points. People were seeking it out.
And this massive success is tied directly to the rise of romantasy, right? This
Yeah.
blend of romance and fantasy.
Absolutely. Romancy kind of exploded into the mainstream, and Fourth Wing became its flagship in many ways. It's hugely popular, often written by women, often geared towards women.
And it's not just a fad. The numbers are serious.
Oh, definitely not a fad. It's estimated to be the biggest grossing genre within fantasy right now, something like $480 million in book sales last year alone.
Wow, 480 million. Okay, so
Yep.
this is a major commercial force.
It absolutely is. It challenges those old, sometimes snobbish ideas about what counts as serious or important fantasy. This is what a huge number of readers are actively choosing and loving.
And you feel that love when people talk about it. The language they use is so intense.
It really is. People say they felt utterly obsessed or hooked from the start. I read reviews where people talked about an actual ache in the chest when they finished it. That's deep emotional connection.
That visceral reaction. And it seems very accessible, too. A lot of people call it a great book to begin with if you're new to fantasy.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. The writing style is generally seen as easy to get into. The world building isn't super dense or overwhelming right at the start. It lowers the barrier to entry for people maybe intimidated by, massive epic fantasy tomes.
I remember hearing Zara from the Shameless podcast talk about it. She's not usually a fantasy reader, right? But she said she just needed an escape, something totally different, and she absolutely devoured it.
That perfectly captures its appeal for many, I think. That pure, unadulterated escapism. It delivers that feeling powerfully.
And Rebecca Yarros herself seems kind of stunned by it all.
She really does. In interviews, she comes across as genuinely surprised, almost overwhelmed. She uses words like surreal, mind-blowing, humbling. Like she can't quite believe it happened to her book.
Like it's happening to somebody else, I think she said.
Exactly. Which is quite endearing considering the scale of it all. And she had that funny line attributing some of it to
People like dragons.
people like dragons,
Yeah.
which, is probably true. Sometimes the simplest explanation holds a lot of water. Dragons are cool.
They really are. So if we dig deeper into why it worked so well, beyond just the dragons, that core concept, deadly dragon-riding war college.
It's just so immediately graspable, simple and brilliant, as the outline said. It instantly tells you what you're getting.
But it mashes up things people already love, right?
Yeah.
That magic school vibe like Harry Potter.
The camaraderie, the learning, the sorting. But then you layer on the brutal competition of the Hunger Games.
Where failure means death, not just detention.
Exactly. And those life or death trials, shades of Divergent, maybe. It's a potent mix. It promises action, magic, high stakes, romance, all baked in.
And the setting itself, Basgiath War College, it delivers on that promise immediately. It's not just a backdrop. It's an active threat.
Totally. The lethality is front and center. That high mortality rate isn't just mentioned, it's shown. Cadets are genuinely encouraged to kill competitors to improve their own odds.
Which creates this constant gnawing tension. There's no safety net.
Yeah.
That first day, the parapet crossing,
Yeah.
it establishes the stakes immediately. Survive or die.
It's a pressure cooker environment from page one. Thrilling, but also relentless. It definitely keeps you turning pages.
Now, we absolutely have to talk characters, because they're clearly a huge part of why people connect so deeply. Let's start with Violet Sorrengail.
Right, Violet. The ultimate underdog, it seems. 20 years old, bookish, destined for the scribe quadrant, the safe scholarly path.
But nope. Mom, the general, forces her into the writer's quadrant, the most dangerous one. And she's physically smaller, described as frailer.
Initially seems completely mismatched for the brutal physical demands, right? But her strength is her mind, her intellect, her strategy.
And what's really compelling, and you touched on this, is her chronic illness, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Yarros doesn't just mention it, she integrates it.
Yes, and this seems really key. It's not magically cured or conveniently ignored. Yarros draws on her own life experiences and her son's, apparently.
So it feels authentic. It becomes part of Violet's journey, her stubbornness, finding ways to accommodate her own body, overcoming limits differently than others might. It grounds her struggles.
It adds a layer of realism, even amidst the dragons and magic. It's about navigating limitations in a world that doesn't make allowances.
Then you have Xaden Ryerson, the anti-hero.
Ah, Xaden. Scarred, brooding, powerful, son of a traitor executed by Violet's own mother. Instant conflict.
Sets up that enemies to lovers trope perfectly, though some people argue about how long the enemies part actually lasts.
Yeah, that's a recurring debate online. Some feel his hatred flips to attraction maybe a bit too quickly for it to be a true slow burn enemies dynamic. Like, lasted about 2 pages, one review said.
Huh. Okay. But for the vast majority of fans, that tension, that slow burn, however long it lasts, and the eventual romance is, well, it's described as scorchingly hot.
It's definitely a major selling point. And Xaden hits a lot of popular points. Seems like the bad guy, but is actually loyal, caring underneath, very protective of Violet.
Even making custom gear for her.
Right?
Weapons, saddles, accommodating her physical needs.
Exactly, that grumpy exterior, softy interior thing.
Plus, he's presented as wise, strategic. It's a compelling package for many readers.
And we can't forget the dragons. Tiernan and Darna.
Definitely not. They're fully fledged characters. Terrifying, amazing, with their own politics, their own hierarchy.
It's not just humans riding convenient mounts. It's a symbiotic bond, right? Needs trust, loyalty. It's intense.
Very intense. And Terran, Violet's main dragon, sounds like quite the personality. Snarky, unbothered, but fiercely protective. A grumpy giant, basically. And then there's the added wrinkle that Tern is mated to Scale, who is Azen's dragon.
Right. Which creates this unbreakable, magical tether between Violet and Xaden, whether they like it or not initially. It literally binds their fates. Clever plot device.
So beyond the romance and the dragons, which are obviously huge draws, there are other themes woven in too, aren't there? Like found family?
Yes, definitely. Despite Basgiath being this cutthroat place where you're explicitly told not to form attachments because everyone's likely to die.
Grim, but probably practical advice there.
Right. But Violet naturally forms these deep bonds anyway, with characters like Rhiannon, Liam, that resonates, that need for connection even in the worst circumstances. It's a very popular, very human theme.
And then, more subtly perhaps, there's political intrigue and this idea of revisionist history.
Yes, this is where it potentially gets deeper than just escapism. The outline mentions seeds of political conspiracies, questions about the official history taught in Navarre.
And Yarros herself linked this to real-world concerns, right, about history being censored or whitewashed.
She did. She spoke about her anger over things like removing slavery from textbooks, wanting to explore what happens when a society refuses to learn from its ugly parts. That adds a layer of commentary.
That's fascinating. So it's not just dragons and kissing. There's a potential critique of power structures there.
Potentially, yes. And her own background as a military spouse for over 2 decades also seems to deeply inform the portrayal of war.
22 years. Wow.
So she's exploring the why of conflict. Why do we do this to each other? And also the human cost. Things like PTSD, the constant fear families live with. That fear of the doorbell bringing bad news.
That really grounds the fantasy in a recognizable emotional reality. It adds weight.
It does. It suggests an author drawing on very real lived experiences, even within a fantastical setting.
So thinking about Yarros' authorial intent, it seems she's very clear on what she's doing. She's not trying to write like the next Ulysses of fantasy.
No, not at all. Her goal seems laser-focused. Craft a spectacular, emotionally satisfying, thrilling story. She's described as being in complete command of her craft in that regard.
And having this empathetic connection with her reader's desires. She knows what the audience wants, and she delivers it skillfully.
And she seems to have fun doing it, especially with those cliffhangers.
Oh yeah, she said she knows the cliffhanger before he starts writing and drives toward that moment with glee. Finds it fun.
Which explains why they land so effectively. It's a deliberate strategy, not an afterthought. She mentioned fighting hard for the Onyx Storm ending specifically. She wants that impact.
And the series itself grew, didn't it? From 3 books to 5.
It did. Apparently, that decision was made relatively early during the editing of Fourth Wing, partly due to time constraints, character evolution, and also when the TV show got optioned.
Makes sense. Gives her more room to explore. And the whole 5-book arc is plotted out already.
That's what she says. Plotted, though not fully written, so there's a roadmap, which probably reassures fans.
What about her actual writing process? Anything interesting there?
Well, she admitted she sucks at writing fight scenes initially, which is quite honest.
Huh. For someone writing about a war college.
Right. But she approaches them logically, thinking about emotions, airspace, formations. She figures it out methodically.
That's relatable. And she also talks about the downside of fame, the anxiety.
Yeah, that fight or flight response to suddenly being so visible. And the really scary part about people finding her actual home address, forcing her family to move.
Oh, that's awful. A really dark side to viral success.
Absolutely. It highlights the intense pressure and loss of privacy that can come with it.
Okay, so phenomenal success, but inevitably there's criticism too, right? It can't be universally adored.
No book ever is. While millions gave it 5 stars, some definitely found issues. Predictability is one point that comes up.
The weak heroine thrives trope. Maybe other familiar plot beats.
Exactly. But even fans who acknowledge the predictability often say it's done in a way that I was entertained and excited to keep reading. For them, the execution matters more than pure originality.
Fair enough. What about the writing style itself? That seems to be a major point of contention.
It really is. You see descriptions ranging from perfectly fine and accessible to, well, less flattering terms like not the best, cringy, even fan fiction level.
Ouch. What are the specific complaints there?
Often things like perceived shallow world building, relying on repetitive tropes, and dialogue feeling anachronistic or cringy.
Any examples cited?
Yeah, things like Violet constantly describing Azaden as beautiful and hot come up, or a feeling that the book doesn't always show the connection, like why Azaden falls for Violet beyond just stating it. Some felt his declarations weren't fully earned by the preceding interactions.
And the enemies to lovers thing, we mentioned that it wasn't enemy enough for some.
Precisely. That his supposed hatred evaporated too quickly, making the transition feel less impactful for readers who really savor that slow, grudging shift.
Even the disability representation, which many appreciated, got some critique.
It did. One reviewer felt it was almost too subtle, barely there beyond Violet's self-descriptions, and they found those descriptions tiny, weak, fragile, frail to be repetitive and potentially reinforcing stereotypes rather than offering a nuanced portrayal.
Interesting. So different perspectives even on aspects generally seen as positive.
As always. And finally, there's Yarros' choice to actively avoid fan discourse.
Right, she doesn't read fan theories or listen to podcasts about her books.
Which seems like a very deliberate self-preservation strategy. She wants to protect her creative process from outside influence and manage the sheer intensity of public opinion where comments can get twisted.
And she's mentioned needing to protect her health, her mental space, before tackling the next books, because the deadlines and pressure are so intense.
It really underscores the immense personal toll that kind of lightning-in-a-bottle success can take on an author. It's not all glamour.
Okay, shifting gears dramatically now. From the viral juggernaut to the critical masterpiece, let's talk the fifth season. The awards trajectory here is just historic.
It really is unprecedented. N.K. Jemisin winning the Hugo Award for Best Novel 3 years in a row for every single book in the Broken Earth trilogy.
The fifth season in 2016, The Obelisk Gate in 2017, The Stone Sky in 2018. Nobody had ever done that before.
Never. A consecutive hat-trick for Best Novel. It immediately cemented the trilogy as a landmark achievement, not just in sci-fi fantasy, but in literature, period.
And beyond just the consecutive wins, Jemisin herself broke a major barrier.
Absolutely. She was the first Black author to win the Hugo for Best Novel. That's a hugely significant milestone, opening doors and changing the face of the genre's highest honors.
So Hugo's aside, though that's massive, the series is recognized for other things too, right? Like defining cli-fi.
Yes, it's seen as a new benchmark for climate fiction cli-fi for how intelligently and profoundly it engages with ecological catastrophe. But it's broader than that, too. It's been called a 21st century invitation to possibilities for sci-fi as a whole.
Wow. High praise. What earns it that reputation?
It comes down to a combination of things. Incredibly sophisticated and unique world-building, gorgeous prose people often describe her writing as beautiful, even poetic, deeply complex characters, and a really rigorous internal logic to its speculative elements. It demands a lot, but it delivers on an intellectual and artistic level.
Let's get into that world then. The Stillness. You said earlier it's almost a character itself.
It absolutely functions that way. It's the supercontinent constantly battered by these fifth seasons, horrific climate events, massive geological shifts. The planet isn't a stable backdrop. It's an active, oppressive, unpredictable force.
And this shapes the society living on it, which is deeply hierarchical and oppressive.
Fundamentally, the core conflict revolves around the Origines. These are people who can control Earth energy. Geokinesis, basically. They can stop earthquakes, palm volcanoes. Immense power.
But also dangerous power. You mentioned flash freezing.
Exactly. If they lose control or even just draw too much thermal energy too quickly, they can literally freeze everything around them, including people, by sucking out the heat. So, they're incredibly feared by the stills, the non-Orogins.
Feared and hated, you said. Dehumanized.
To the extreme. The slur raga is used constantly. Origin children, if discovered, are often killed outright by their own communities, sometimes their own families. It's brutal.
So if they're not killed, what happens? They go to this place, the Fulcrum.
Right. If they survive discovery, they're usually taken by guardians, these sort of enforcers to the fulcrum in the capital city, Eumenes. Ostensibly, it's for training.
But it's not like Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters.
Not even close. The outline calls it a place of brutal, systematic control. And chillingly, it's run by other origins, but its purpose is to break the trainee's will, instill absolute obedience through pain and fear.
Pain and fear as teaching tools.
Literally. There's that horrifying example. A guardian deliberately breaks young Demaya's hand as her first lesson in control, to teach her to use her power even while in agony. It's about turning them into controllable weapons for the Santinai's empire, while still denying them basic humanity.
That's deeply disturbing. And it gets even darker with the node stations.
Ugh, yes. That's
Yep.
one of the most horrific revelations in the trilogy. These are powerful origin children, often bred for the purpose, who are essentially lobotomized, mutilated, and kept in constant agony, wired into the earth to passively maintain seismic stability for the empire. Their suffering literally holds the world together for their oppressors.
Just wow. The layers of cruelty are staggering.
It's relentless. And the oppression isn't just about orogeny. The Sansai's empire uses racial classifications too, dividing everyone up based on how close they are to the Sansa mean.
Meaning, Sansei's traits are considered superior, better for survival.
Exactly. It's a way to justify their power. Essen's skin color is described in terms of how it deviates from different standards, unpleasantly ochre brown or unpleasantly olive pale. It shows how deeply ingrained these judgments about physical characteristics are, separate from but alongside the magic system.
So prejudice is multifaceted and systemic, and the Guardians enforce all of this.
They're the sharp end of the stick. Warriors, hunters, assassins. Their job is to control origins, train them, manage them through pain, or kill them if necessary. They are the enforcers of this brutal status quo.
The characters navigating this world must be incredibly complex. Let's talk about Essen.
Essen is central, and the narrative structure around her is one of the most brilliant and initially confusing aspects. We follow three storylines, 3 points of view.
Demaya, Cyanite, and Essen.
Right, and the big reveal, which isn't immediate, is that they are all the same person at different stages of her life. It's a fragmented perspective across time.
And Essen's chapters are in second person. You do this, you feel that.
Yes, present tense, second person. A very bold, experimental choice. Some readers found it jarring, befuddling, but others felt it pulled them in intensely, made them feel closer to the storyline, almost like inhabiting Essen's experience directly.
That's a risky move narratively.
Hugely risky, but it pays off incredibly well for many, creating this unique intimacy and immediacy.
Who are the other key players around her? Alabaster.
Alabaster is crucial. He's this legendary ten-ring origin, immensely powerful. He acts as a foil to Essen in some ways. He's more of a radical, a revolutionary perhaps, while Essen initially tries to work within the system or at least survive it. Their dynamic explores different responses to oppression.
And Shafa, the guardian who trains Demaya.
Shaka embodies the abusive control of the fulcrum. His relationship with Demaya is deeply disturbing, showcasing that systemic abuse aimed at breaking and reshaping Orogen.
And Hoa, the mysterious boy.
Hoa adds another layer of mystery. He seems to be following Essen, helping her. And eventually, we learn he's a stone eater, a completely different ancient non-human species. And even more mind-bending, he's revealed as the narrator of Essen's second-person chapters.
Wait, what? The narrator is another character within the story.
Yep. It reframes everything. It's a complex, layered structure that rewards close attention.
Let's talk about Jemisin's craft. How did she arrive at this complex structure? Was it all planned?
She started with an outline, apparently. The 3 plot lines, the world as character concept, the cliffhangers. But that second-person voice for Essen, that was instinctive.
It just emerged.
Seems so. She described it as coming out of test chapters, just spitballing to find the right energy. It wasn't part of the original grand design.
That's amazing. But it wasn't an easy process for her.
Far from it. She's been very open about hitting a wall halfway through the first book, crying, thinking it was the worst thing I've ever written, ready to quit.
Wow. Even authors of masterpieces have those moments.
Absolutely. It took her editor and friends talking her down, encouraging her to keep going. It's a powerful reminder of the struggle involved in creating something truly new and challenging.
And she uses parallelism very deliberately, like starting and ending the trilogy with a child's death.
Yes, she calls it creating thematic resonances, like different plot lines echoing each other, building meaning across time. She said she seeded clues and layers throughout, refining them in edits. It's incredibly intricate work.
And she has strong views on traditional fantasy tropes. that nostalgic theme.
Very strong views. She fundamentally critiques the common epic fantasy trope of wanting to restore a lost, glorious past. She argues that's often a manifestation of privilege.
Because for marginalized groups, the past wasn't glorious.
Exactly. For them, the old world was bad. They wouldn't want to go back. They might even fight the quote-unquote heroes trying to restore it because they see potential in change in building something different, something better.
That completely reframes the typical hero's journey narrative.
It absolutely does, and she's explicit about the real-world parallel she's drawing on. She said she was consciously channeling slavery and exploring the origins of oppression.
And other forms of oppression, too.
Yes, she mentioned drawing on the experiences of closeted queer people, disabled people treated as burdens. The Fulcrum's methods were partly inspired by the horrific history of reservation schools used to forcibly assimilate indigenous children.
So the fantasy is a direct lens onto real, historical, and ongoing trauma.
Unquestionably. And she sees oppression as systemic, often involving complicity from within the oppressed group itself. Not just a simple good versus evil narrative. It's much more complex and uncomfortable.
Which leads to the book being described as complex and confrontational, not light reading.
Definitely not. No concessions to a reader looking for light escapism, as the outline puts it. It confronts you from page one. Even her use of technical geological terms, the techno-babble, she does it deliberately, sometimes humorously, aware it might be dense, but committed to the world's reality.
Okay, so critically adored, intellectually rich. But how does that translate to the average reader experience? Is it enjoyable to read?
That's where it gets complicated. Many readers, even experienced ones, find it difficult. The darkness, the ambiguity, the challenging style, it can be alienating.
Quite depressing. Not your usual escapism.
Exactly. People talk about it being emotionally draining. One reviewer said they had to will myself to read after the first book. It demands a certain resilience from the reader.
And newcomers might just feel lost.
Very much so. Especially with the nonlinear structure and the delayed reveal about acendamide. Some readers felt very lost a lot of the time, wishing they'd known that twist earlier.
But veteran readers advise sticking with it, that the confusion is part of the process.
Yeah, the advice is often, expect to be lost for at least 100 pages. Trust the author. It will come together. It requires a leap of faith.
So it's a book that rewards rereading or further investigation.
Definitely. Many people say the true brilliance, the intricate connections, only fully clicked on a second read, or after reading interviews or finishing the whole trilogy. It unfolds its layers slowly.
And the themes themselves, being so direct, environmentalism, racism, utilitarianism, can be polarizing.
Absolutely. If the book's unflinching stance on those issues clashes strongly with a reader's own views, they might react negatively, even despise the books, as one source suggested. It doesn't pull punches, and that can be divisive.
Even the trilogy structure itself faced some debate, not feeling like three separate novels.
Yeah, some critics felt it was more like one book chopped up into three parts, lacking distinct arcs for each volume. Kind of like the critique of the Hobbit movies being stretched too thin. A structural quibble, but it speaks to different expectations for multi-part stories.
Okay, so we've got Fourth Wing, the viral sensation, and the fifth season, the critical darling. Two huge successes, but achieved so differently. Let's really put them side by side now and compare their philosophies.
Yeah, looking at how they succeeded is revealing. Fourth Wing's path was all about that decentralized emotional virality, wasn't it? Driven by readers, by book talk.
Grassroots power. It showed a real shift in influence, maybe away from traditional publishing gatekeepers towards audience participation, peer recommendations.
Exactly. Whereas the fifth season's validation came from the top down, in a way. Centralized institutional validation. The Hugo Awards being the prime example. Recognition from the established expert community.
And the Hugos themselves, you mentioned, are chosen by World Science Fiction Society members. So it's community-driven, but a specific community.
Right. It aims to recognize excellence, which is great, but it reflects the tastes and priorities of Worldcon attendees and members. There have been controversies over the years, debates about representation, like all-male shortlists for the Clark Award sometimes, or the Hugos themselves reflecting certain biases.
So these awards are influential, but maybe represent one particular segment of the broader readership. They face challenges engaging with, say, the book talk crowd or independent bloggers.
That seems fair to say. They serve their community well, but bridging the gap to those more decentralized online fandoms is an ongoing challenge for many traditional institutions.
Okay, so different paths to recognition. What about their core appeal? What fundamental need are they meeting for readers?
This feels like a key distinction. Fourth Wing seems squarely aimed at being the story you want to read. It's about emotional fulfillment, thrilling escape, pure enjoyment.
That powerful, entertaining escape we talked about, helping people unwind, regulate emotions. Healthy escapism. Yarros herself embraced that label.
She did. I think it's escapism, she said. No shame in that game. It delivers that experience masterfully.
Whereas the fifth season feels more like the story you need to think about.
Precisely. Its appeal is rooted in social commentary, intellectual exploration. It uses fantasy to confront harsh realities, make you question things, think critically. It's allegory, it's challenge, not comfort food.
It demands active intellectual and emotional engagement, doesn't it?
Completely. Light escapism is absolutely not on the menu there.
This difference seems reflected in their world building too. Fourth Wing's world serves the adventure.
Yeah, Basgiath, Navarre. They're high stakes, visually arresting backdrops for the characters' journeys, the romance, the plot. The world building is accessible, focused on immediate, visceral reality to get you invested quickly.
While in the fifth season, the world is the theme, almost.
Very much so. The stillness, the fifth seasons, the orogeny, the fulcrum, the racial strata, every element of the world is a metaphor, reinforcing the core themes of environmental disaster, social hierarchy, systemic oppression. The world is the message, in large part.
Which leads to those reader debates about detail, right? Some finding Fourth Wing's world kind of dead because it doesn't detail, say, the gods or the currency system.
Right, those readers who crave deep encyclopedic world-building, Tolkien-style appendices, they want the foundations fully mapped out.
While others prefer Fourth Wing's focus on character and plot, finding excessive detail may be tedious. World building for world building's sake, as some put it.
Exactly. It just highlights that there's no single right way. Different readers prioritize different elements. Some want immersion in mechanics, others want immersion in emotion and action.
Now, authorial engagement. Yarros keeping her distance from fandom discussions.
That deliberate distance, avoiding fan theories, podcasts. It feels like a protective measure for her creativity and her sanity, frankly. Managing the sheer pressure of a viral hit where every word gets dissected.
Especially when she mentioned needing to be physically and mentally healthy to write the next books under intense deadlines.
It speaks volumes about the personal cost. Contrast that with Jemisin,
who seems much more engaged with the ideas of the genre, actively pushing against traditions.
Yes, her stance feels more philosophical, more activist almost. Fighting that nostalgic theme, deliberately exploring oppression, expanding fantasy's potential to provoke thought. She's engaging with the genre's history and its future possibilities directly.
And she has that interesting self-description and especially evil writer to her characters, but trying to be a nice person in real life.
That tension is fascinating. The relationship between the creator and the often brutal worlds they create. It suggests a lot of conscious thought about her impact and her methods.
So predictability versus complexity in the reader journey. Fourth Wing embraces tropes, but executes them well.
Exactly. It delivers familiar, beats the underdog, enemies to lovers, the deadly school in a really satisfying, thrilling way. It meets expectations beautifully while still surprising with plot twists and those killer cliffhangers. Great entry point.
Makes it very welcoming for newcomers. While the fifth season is the opposite.
Pretty much. Challenging nuance, intricate structure, non-linear time, deep thematic density. It demands significant effort, rewards rereading, appeals to readers seeking intellectual stimulation and profound commentary.
But potentially alienating if you're not prepared for that level of engagement.
Definitely. It requires patience and a willingness to be uncomfortable, to be confused for a while. It's a very different contract with the reader.
Okay, let's zoom out. We have these two massive books, succeeding in very different ways. What does this tell us about fantasy overall, and what readers need from it today? First, that idea of escapism. Gets a bad rap sometimes, doesn't it?
It really does. Often dismissed as frivolous, a guilty pleasure, but that's such a limited view. Healthy escapism is incredibly important for mental well-being.
What are the actual benefits?
Well, psychologists talk about several things. Obvious stress relief, just getting a break from daily pressures. It aids emotional regulation, processing feelings safely through fiction. It can foster creativity and inspiration by immersing you in new worlds.
Mental refreshment, too, like hitting a reset button.
Exactly, prevents burnout. And fundamentally, it's a form of self-care, allowing yourself enjoyment, pleasure, distraction. These are vital. Reading, movies, hobbies, they're not trivial. They help us cope and recharge.
And Fourth Wing seems like a perfect example of delivering that healthy escapism. Excitement, passion, release.
Absolutely. It meets that need for joyful, thrilling distraction head on, and clearly that's a need many people have right now.
Now, what about how genres evolve? That boiling the frog idea is interesting,
Yeah, the idea that some series start accessible and then gradually introduce more complexity or darker themes. Think about Harry Potter.
right? Starts as a charming kid's book about a magic school,
And ends as a pretty dark exploration of war, fascism, trauma, death. It grew up with its audience layering in complexity over time.
or a Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Starts with clear heroes and villains.
And then systematically subverts all those fantasy tropes, becoming incredibly morally ambiguous and brutal. It eased a massive audience into a much grimmer, more complex kind of fantasy.
So the question is, could Fourth Wing, being this huge, accessible romantasy, potentially do something similar? Could it evolve?
It's a fascinating possibility. We talked about those seeds of political conspiracy, the questioning of history. Yarros is already layering some of that in.
So could it boil the frog? Bring its massive audience along into potentially more complex thematic territory in the later books?
Absolutely could. That's the potential power of a big tent hit. You draw readers in with the dragons and romance, and then maybe subtly expand their palette for political intrigue or social commentary. It's a different strategy than Jemisin's.
Right. The fifth season just throws you in the deep end immediately. No easing in.
Exactly. Immediate confrontation with complex themes, both valid approaches, just different ways to engage the reader with challenging ideas.
This also connects to how subjective excellence is, and why some books become so polarizing. You mentioned Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
A perfect example, hailed as a masterpiece called the worst book ever. Often happens when books cross over, maybe via something like Oprah's Book Club, reaching readers who wouldn't normally pick them up.
And the criticisms often center on style, right?
Right.
Like McCarthy's punctuation, or lack thereof.
Precisely. Is it a brilliant literary device enhancing the mood, or just bad writing? People fall hard on either side. It often reveals more about reader expectations than objective quality.
And the likable characters debate comes into play too.
Always. Some readers need protagonists they can root for unequivocally, characters who are fundamentally good or relatable. Others prioritize complexity, moral ambiguity, realism, even if the characters are difficult or unlikable.
And if an author leans too far one way, they get accused of pandering, or conversely, of being needlessly alienating.
It's a constant tightrope walk. Both Fourth Wing and the fifth season make distinct choices here, attracting different reader preferences regarding character likability versus complexity.
So bringing it all together, what does the simultaneous success of these two very different books mean for fantasy's future?
I think it highlights the incredible health and vibrancy of the genre right now. It shows there's a huge appetite for both popular, accessible works that act as gateways.
The big tent books that bring new readers in.
Exactly, introducing them to the core joys of fantasy. But there's also a strong, recognized space for critically acclaimed, challenging works that push boundaries, explore deep issues, experiment with form.
We need both for a healthy ecosystem.
Absolutely. And the roles of awards, like the Hugos trying to recognize excellence, however vaguely defined, and the fan communities from organized conventions like Worldcon to decentralized online spaces like Book Talk, are both crucial in shaping what gets read, what gets talked about, what influences the genre's next steps.
Though connecting those different spheres, the institutional awards and the online buzz remains a challenge.
It does. But ultimately, the takeaway is that a thriving genre needs stories that make us feel powerful and loved, the escapism, the emotional fulfillment. And it needs stories that make us need to think about the challenges, the commentary, the intellectual stimulation.
It's not an either, it's a spectrum. And both ends and everything in between are vital. Hashtag tag outro. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels clear that Fourth Wing and the fifth season, while incredibly different, represent two essential, equally powerful paths within modern fantasy.
Yeah, they really do. Fourth Wing offers that ultimate stage for adventure, for emotional connection, a powerful escape driven by that incredible reader-led virality.
While the fifth season gives us the ultimate tool for social commentary, for intellectual exploration, using fantasy to stare unflinchingly at reality, validated by that significant critical acclaim.
Both brilliant, neither better. Just catering to different but equally important human needs for what stories can do for us.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. In today's world, which feels increasingly complex, maybe even overwhelming sometimes, what kind of journey do you find yourself seeking when you pick up a fantasy novel?
Are you looking for that comfortable, thrilling escape? Something to sweep you away? Or are you searching for a more challenging, thought-provoking exploration, something that uses a different lens to help you process reality?
And how do those choices, those preferences, shape not just your reading life, but maybe even how you engage with or take a break from
Hmm.
the world outside the book? Something to think about.